During the lockdown period, I made recordings of 50 Scarlatti sonatas, the complete Goldberg variations of Bach, first book of the Well-Tempered Clavier, and now I'm planning for this year a complete cycle of the Inventions and Sinfonias of Bach. To help build traction for my channel and to perhaps give you something different, I'm going to be providing these musical commentaries. If you like what you're hearing, please do check out my other videos and do like, subscribe and comment. The works we now know as Bach's 2- and 3-part Inventions contain some of his most played music. The version that we're familiar with was compiled 300 years ago. The foreword was dated 13th of April 1723. But actually, they have some prehistory, so I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Here's 5 points that you should know about the Inventions and Sinfonias. Point 1. Actually, the title that Bach gave the collection in 1723 was Aufrichtige Anleitung, forgive my German there, which means basically faithful guide. Second point I'd like to make is, of course, most people know these from playing them on the piano, but the piano was just about in its infancy and Bach wouldn't have known any, so we can assume that he probably meant harpsichord or even clavichords. We now know the titles of the pieces as Inventions for the 2-part works and Sinfonias for those in 3 voices. But the original titles were contained in a manuscript of 3 years earlier in 1720, compiled for his oldest son Friedemann Bach. That contains all 30 of the works in a slightly earlier version, and under the titles Prembula for the 2-part works and Fantasiae for the 3-part works. Point 4 is the works we now know as the Inventions and Sinfonias were originally in the Friedemann Bach manuscript in an entirely different order. Originally, they went up and then down again. Began on C and ended in C minor in each case. So you can see that as it was meant for his son, this collection is primarily a teaching collection. The 5th point I'd like to make is we tend to know one version of these pieces from different anthologies or even the whole collections, but actually there are multiple versions available. Bach himself ornamented a few. For instance, the E-flat Sinfonia exists in a vastly ornamented version and a plain version. And there are different manuscripts of his pupils which have copious ornamentation. One of the biggest variants occurs in actually the most familiar of the pieces, the C major 2-part Invention number 1. There's a version where somebody, is it Bach himself or somebody else, has filled in all the little intervals of a third with the notes, making them all into triplets, and it's this version I've recorded. I'd recommend any keyboard players try to get the most up-to-date Urtext edition play, which lists all the different variants. For my performances over the coming weeks, I'll be using this Nicholas Dam harpsichord, which is modelled on a J.M. Bach model, as well as my Roland C30 and my trusty Roland C200 digital claviers. Please do follow them and follow me over the next few weeks and enjoy the collection.